with envy, Muse. It's still cold outside. And yes, I'm wearing my old crufty green sweatshirt because it's snuggly and warm. And I'm a writer, and I need to stay warm. My bones are showing through. I'm a xylophone. I'm digesting myself. Sorry, that was grumpy old man. Get off my yard! Sorry, I had to go there. I had something to talk to you about. And I didn't forget it. I tricked you. Hemingway once said, okay, yes, I'm going to say Hemingway. I'm going to quote Hemingway. Get over it. Hemingway once said, write drunk, edit sober. And I find that a lot of authors out there either forget that little quote, or they never knew it existed in the first place. It's Hemingway. People, Hemingway. Some might call him a master. I'm going to relate this, as I am wont to do, back to my days as an actor. Because they were so special. When I would go into the first few days of a rehearsal for a new show, I approached the character, the role in the show in such a way that I pretty much abandoned all preconceived notions about a character and tossed propriety out the window and said, what the hell, let's just jump in like a kid and see what happens. Let's have some fun. Let's pretend this rehearsal space is my playground. These are my toys, and I get to do whatever the hell I want with them. And the process would, generally speaking, mine gold. Of course, there were some bits and pieces that were crap, but I would discover these pieces, these bits, these things that made this character tick that maybe no one else had ever discovered, and maybe, probably, most likely, that I would not have discovered otherwise. Why? Because I just said, fuck it all, I'm going to play. I'm going to forget about the fact that I'm an adult human being, and that I have bills and a family, and I'm just going to say, wee, and see what happens. And I discovered this during that 30-so years of doing that. That it is exponentially harder to be pushed forward than it is to be pulled back. What does that mean? It means that it is harder to discover these unique abilities about a character and to let this character organically blossom into something crazy and fun than it is. I've kind of lost my train of thought there, Muse. Damn it. What it means is this. I'll try again. Take dose. It happens every once in a while. What this means is that it is easier for, we're going to keep this in line with the idea of acting. It is easier for a director to say, you've gone too far, pull it back, than it is for a director to say, you need to go further. Because in a rehearsal setting, all shackles and chains should be removed, and you should just be experimenting and playing and discovering all these amazing things. And if you were tied to this preconceived reality, you're going to have trouble playing outside of those boundaries. And the same thing holds true for writers. If you go into a story, you're going to write a brand new story, and you go into it with these very sober ideas of what this story and these characters are to be about, there's a whole host of happy accidents that you're not going to discover. And I know it might sound a little bit inefficient, but if you dive into writing a new book and you just say, let's just see what happens. Let's forget about this idea that the world has placed upon me these filters and these norms, and this is the way things are supposed to work. If instead you just say, I am the writer of this universe. I make these rules. I can break these rules. If you dive in like that, you're going to discover some pretty amazing things. Write drunk, edit sober. Now, I'm not saying that you need to imbibe a bunch of booze or drugs or, take the dope. Get off my yard! I'm not saying that you have to do that before you dive into writing. I'm saying that you need to approach these stories like a child, with your eyes wide open to the wonders of the world that you were creating, and just let go. Just dive in. It's like the first time you go to the swimming pool, the public pool that nobody wants to go to because everybody's peeing in. The first time you go to that and you don't know that everybody's peed in it, and you're a little kid and you see this huge pool and all these people swimming about, and instead of just jumping in for the first time, you walk up to it and you tiptoe and you put your toe into the water and it feels cold and you get afraid and you're afraid to do it, and you're watching out there and you're seeing all these other kids having this incredibly great time, and you're standing on the sidelines dipping your toe in to try to see if you can acclimate yourself by way of that little tiny inch of space. Just dive in. Because there are wonders and fun to be had. And it doesn't matter what genre you're writing. It doesn't matter if you're writing vampire erotica or dinosaur porn or romance or thrillers. Have fun. Toss caution into the dumpster and say, caution, you have nothing to do with this right now. Caution, I will come back later and I will pick you up out of the dumpster, I'll wipe you off, and then we'll talk. But right now, it's about me and this story, and I am going to let go and just see what the fuck happens. Toss all your preconceived notions out the window and say, these are my rules to break. And by gum, I'm going to break them. Right? That's what we need to be doing as writers, because after we let go, after we dive into this story with absolute abandon, once we have written this first draft as drunk as we possibly can be, metaphorically speaking, we can go back the next pass, sobered up, and say, I may have taken this a little too far. Let's tone it down just a little bit. Okay, I went outside of the lines here and it works, but over here, maybe I need to pull back inside of those lines. And in the process, you're going to say, oh, wow, I discovered something really cool that I would not have discovered otherwise. That is writing drunk and editing sober. It is easier to be pulled back than pushed forward. Trust me on this. I've been writing for a long time. And I can go back now, and I've done this. I can go back and read the stories that I have written under constraint, under society constraint or my constraint or editor's constraint or a publisher's constraint or whatever, I can read those stories and go, yeah, I really needed to let go here. I really didn't discover the true depths of this story and these characters. And then I can read those books that I approached drunk off my mind, metaphorically speaking, of course, and I can go, wow, I'd really found some things here, some unique things. And that's part of the issue. It's all been written. There are only 7 plots, I think. What, man versus man, man versus machine, man against self, man against nature, man against panda bears, man against Czech cereal, man against a booger to be flipped off his finger. I don't remember all of them. I'm sorry. I can't pull that off the top of my head. Man against panda, though. Don't argue with me on that one. I'm kidding. So it's all been written. And if you write sober, what you're going to do is you're just going to rewrite something that's already been written. Don't do that. If you're going to reinvent the wheel, which if you're going to reinvent the wheel, probably going to lose out on some cash. If you're going to reinvent the wheel, reinvent it square and triangle and three-dimensional and a big blob of gelatinous goo. Reinvent it creatively. Get drunk, metaphorically speaking, and make that wheel as fabulous as you can. Because we all need some fabulous. Right? And then, of course, when you go back and you edit, you're not really editing. Your editor's editing. When you go back and reread your story to make sure that you, in the process of losing your mind, you didn't lose the thread of the plot, that what you have is viable. It all must be viable. Everyone say it with me. Viable. Okay, I've rambled on long enough, Muse. It's the end of the year, almost. I will talk about that later, but not right now. Before I do that, I do want to wish you, Muse, and everybody out there who's watching, I want to wish you a happy holidays. Merry Christmas, whatever you want to call it. Have a happy winter solstice, which happens to be the day today, right now. It's the shortest day of the year. Starting tomorrow, the days get longer. Woo! Anyway, that's all I've got. I will be back very soon, Muse. Remember, when I speak of writing drunk, I mean that metaphorically. Unless, of course, you are one to drink. Just use caution when you drink and write. There are innocent bystanders in those books. You don't want to hurt anybody. Muse, you rock.